in spite of perhaps some evidence to the contrary, I have enjoyed working on this machine and the other one that is just like it that I have. I have a couple more projects that are currently in progress for these two machines, but they're gonna take a little bit longer to finish cooking. So in the meantime, I'm gonna take a little bit of a break from working on this IBM machine. And I'm gonna work on one of these IBM machines instead. Now, all three of these really filthy machines came from the giant barn rescue last fall where I got all of the Apple machines. There was a couple videos about, at least one or two videos about that last year. They are in pretty much exactly the same state that they were in when I pulled them out of that barn, which is to say, ew. They are filthy and dirty. This is a PC Server 300, which has either a Pentium 60 or a Pentium 66 processor in it. It has PCI and ISA slots. This is a PS2 Model 30, which has, I believe, an 8088 and just ISA slots. And this is a PS2 Model 55SX, which has a 386SX, and this has microchannel slots. And this is the machine that is the reason that I got that microchannel sound card that I talked about in a fairly recent video. So for this video, I think that I am going to just work on this one because I believe it will be the easiest to work on. So I'm gonna put on my helmet for safety, and I'm actually gonna take this case outside and I'm gonna hose this thing down because it is super icky. And then I'll bring it back over on the bench and actually get to work on it. Before doing any of the cleaning, I decided to go ahead and open it up on camera. Now, it has several captive screws, although the one back here appears to be missing, that are unscrewed. This is how I got it. So I've peeked in here briefly, I think the day when we went out and did the rescue, or maybe when I very first brought it into the basement. So it's been at least 6 months since I've looked in here. I don't remember. I know it's filthy. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So my next step is going to be to take that lid over to my sink and clean it up real good. Ooh-wee, it is dirty in here. So now all these IBM systems, all these PS2s use weird bespoke drive interfaces, but it does just have ISA, so hopefully the floppy drive will work or can be repaired. I've watched, I want to say, Epictronics do enough recaps of these kinds of IBM floppy drives that I ought to be able to muddle my way through that. And then because this is just ISA, should be able to put pretty much any kind of hard drive controller on there and get some sort of hard disk activity going on in here. Now it looks like, to clean off the chips here, because it looks like, so we have, oh okay, so it's an 8086 and an 8087. It's got a math coprocessor. Well, that's nice. So it's dirty, but not terrible. There's a little bit of corrosion on some of these screws. I don't see anything in here that causes me particular concern about this. It looks like it uses, I will double check before doing anything with it, but it looks like this is just a regular AT power supply. So I think I'm going to just, and this, so a bunch of these have special tools for removing the various plastic bits, and there are a lot of plastic bits in these, but this one, if there is such a special tool, it has gone missing. I don't see anything. So the difficult part is going to be removing this faceplate without breaking anything. So I think, though, you can just, ironically, the same tool that is the right size for removing these hex head screws also appears to be just the right size to push into, at least it worked on one of them. Does not want to work on that one. Work up here? Yeah, so it works up here. Maybe you just have to have the exact right angle. Yeah. All right, let's see if I can get all of these. The challenge will be getting at them, because some of them are in really inconvenient spots. I wonder. Oh, that one really does not want to play. Oh, there's another one hiding under here. Oh, that one does not want to play nicely either. Well, what else do I have? Oh, wait, that's right. That's right. Is that there's a trick to get this face off. And then this comes out front ways. So there was two little tabs that was very careful with the screwdriver. And then this, I believe, should, if I push on this, should just slide out front ways. Come on. You know you want to come out. The little tab on the front, and now it comes out part way. No, and then it slides up. Yes, so there's a little tab in the front. I knew it was easier than I was making it. And I've already washed my hands like 75 times today. And I already feel like I need to wash them again now. Oh, so this is attached. This is all one piece. Right? Yes, because this is attached to the faceplate. Well, then that, yes. So then how, so there's one of these little clip jobbies, like right in the middle here. How does one extract that without causing damage? I don't know how am I going to get this apart without breaking it, honestly. It's such an inconvenient design. Okay, so I'm going to try something else. I'm going to try taking off the back and getting everything else out of here. That might might make it a little bit easier. I feel like, okay, well, I can remove that. Oh, and that's the battery. Wow, that is a big old battery. Okay, but at least it's a lithium sort, so it didn't leak and destroy the universe. I also see that this is littered with tantalums. There's a bunch over here. Oh, maybe those are it. It's just that cluster of 3. This serial port adapter back here is the filthy, grossest thing. Oh man, that is. I mean, who knows how many years this was sitting out in that barn. Okay, so something else is still holding onto the board back here. Oh no, there are a couple more tantalums there. Oh, and they are the 3-leg kind. Looks like, okay. So here we have another puzzle because I have to take this off. There's a screw that's underneath the plastic that's holding the motherboard in. Oh, okay. That one just comes out. All right, and so then hopefully this one, if I do this trick, oh, one that is not hidden but was hidden from me. There should probably be another one over here. 2 more over there. Now, this one is difficult because it's... Okay, what is... Okay, so this is you're the last one left, little fella. It is completely... I don't know if my camera will focus if I turn this up. But it is completely inaccessible here. The one on the other side that was like this, I just pulled on this little plastic tab and it came out. This one does not appear to want to do that. I cannot get any kind of a tool in there. Oh, you. I feel like I'm not going to get this off without breaking it, and that's going to make me sad. Oh, I just wasn't prying hard enough on this. There we go. Okay. So on these, you have to pry out on these tabs with more force than it feels like should be necessary, or that a little bit more force than I felt comfortable applying. Like, I'd kind of rather break the tab that's invisible than the one that's on the outside of the case that is visible. But it did not break. And so then there's 3 more screws on the back here, one holding in the motherboard. Or, pardon me, there's 4 screws back here, one holding in the motherboard, and the other 3 are holding in the power supply. I'm going to go ahead and remove these power supply screws while I'm here. Okay, so now I believe the motherboard should just come out. Yes-ish. Okay, let me maybe remove. Okay. Power supply is out. So now, oh yeah, there's a lot of tantalums hiding around on this board. Fun stuff. kind of didn't want to remove those, but I think I have to. Okay. How am I just not seeing the right gymnastics to do to get this board out? Okay, it just has to very, very carefully slide out. Wow, that was super, super irritating. Okay, well, this will also go get a good wash. Now, there is but one thing left to extract. This dumb old faceplate. So you can kind of see way down in the middle there is where that other plastic clip is. That just seems kind of rude. Oh, see, now it looks like it's popped through. At least part way. Why are we still holding on? It's still holding this attached. Does this have to... Oh, IBM. My gosh, you guys. Oh man, my hands are so dirty. Oh. Okay. All right, well, I got that all apart without breaking any of the clips. And without... And that just comes up like, wow. IBM, you jerks. All right, well, it is fully disassembled. I got it apart without breaking anything and without using any curse words. Honestly, that's the part that is more surprising to me. So I'm going to take all of these parts over to the sink and I'm going to wash them, and they are probably going to have to sit and dry for a few days, at least overnight, before I return to this. Since the last bit of recording, I have done a few things. I completely washed the case like I said I would. That took a shocking amount of time, just like getting this stupid board out of the case. I desoldered the battery from the little riser board here. I just kind of ran the motherboard under the hot tap to just kind of rinse it off, and it does not look any better. There's a couple spots that I actually cleaned, like right here, that I cleaned with some IPA. So like running it underwater did almost nothing with it. I didn't have any soft brushes over there at the time, and all I had was like a really, really solid stiff bristled brush that I was using to clean the case. And with all these little surface mount components, I did not want to go after it with that bristle, because some capacitor or resistor would have gotten yeeted and I would have never been able to figure out why the board wasn't working after that. I have also opened up the power supply and blew it out with a handheld leaf blower. This thing is ridiculous. It's not quite as good as an actual air compressor, but my air compressor is still out of commission, so it's kind of the next best thing. Blew a lot of dust out of here, and then that is all that I have done. So my intention today is I want to check out the power supply, see if it is giving good voltage, hook this up connect this to the power, use a postcard, see if it does anything. I have recalled that this is one of the kind of computers where the VGA port has one of the pins helpfully blocked. So I am going to actually have to modify a cable this time so that I can plug something in there, and then we'll see if this thing actually boots. If I have time, I will take apart this floppy drive and see about servicing it. But if the board works, I probably will go ahead and give it the rest of a clean. I'll go ahead and do that off camera. I'll get all the things that are working back into the case. I am still going to try to service this power supply there, or floppy drive. There are some, as can be seen right here, surface mount capacitors that will likely need replacing, although that one, I do not see any evidence of leakage or otherwise failure, but I should at least take it apart enough to be able to check those and be able to take a look at it. Doesn't show up super great on the camera, but right here is an actual clean patch, and the rest of it is just still, it's just a really heavy, thick layer of dust. I'm going to go ahead and hook up the power supply to voltmeter here and plug it in and see if it is giving good voltage. As far as I can tell, the pinout of this power supply is the same as regular AT, although what I've found is that on some ATs, this pin is plus 5 volts, and on some it is ground. And on this power supply, it really wants it to be ground. I don't know if any of the other AT power supplies I have are configured thusly. So hopefully this one will just work, and I can go ahead and test this board with this power supply. Otherwise, I'll have to dig around and see if any of my other power supplies will actually be compatible with this board and not give it voltage where it's expecting ground, because that would be bad. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and dig in. It's all hooked up. Probably shouldn't do this with the lid off, but I want to see if anything goes kablooey. I want that to see if anything goes kablooey. I'm going to be careful. Kids, don't do this at home. Grown-ups, don't do this at home. All right, fan comes on. That's a good sign. So that's a 5-volt rail, and it's pretty low, 4.7. That should be ground. That is going to be 12 volts. This is going to be minus 12. That's another ground. 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 Minus 5. Plus 5. Plus 5. Plus 5. Okay. I'm comfortable with the readings coming off that power supply, so I'm going to go ahead and put the lid back on it, because I'm really not into doing power supply refurbs. I have a AT&T PC6300 that really needs its power supply repaired, and it has been sitting underneath this table for like at least 2 years, because I just don't want to. So I'm going to reshuffle this all around and get the lid back on this so that I don't hurt myself, hook it up to the board, and see if it does anything. Post analyzer card is connected. I've have this kind of propped up and oriented so that my camera above the desk here has a good view of of all these tantalum capacitors. There's 3 over here, 2 over here, 1 over here, 1 over here. And it's occurring to me that I should just check to see if there's any shorts on this board before I do this. Never get to have any fun. Let's go ahead and do that. All right. Okay. That's the one that's okay. These should all be ground. Towards the middle here. read roughly 0. And that that's the other one that's ground, and this one. Okay. All right. So there's a few over here that are reading some of the 5-volt rails. We're reading like 100, 200 ohms. I think that's probably okay. I may find out otherwise here momentarily. So I will also have this kind of propped up so that it's not pointing right at my face. All right, I'm gonna lean way back and turn it on. Okay, so there's no postcodes. I was a little bit suspicious that this vintage of system might not actually do any posting. I don't think that was actually added. Well, it was added in the AT, and the AT came out before this particular XT class PS2. So it seems like maybe it ought to. I noticed that the speaker is also not having anything to say. So this may actually be completely dead. I decided to try to debug this from base principles on the assumption that it is behaving faulty. So a CPU needs a few things before the system has any prayer of working at all. It needs power, needs ground. We'll infer the proper existence of power and ground from some of the other signals that we're going to look at. It needs a working clock, and it needs a working reset signal. Okay, so on the 8086, this pin down here is the reset. So I'm going to put this right there, and we'll try this reset. On the 8086, the reset line will go high just for a brief instant, and then it will go low. And then after I check that, I want to say this pin over here is the clock, and then most of the rest of the pins down this side of the chip are multiplexed address and data lines. It's one of the many, but one of the big differences between the 8086 and the 68000 is the 68000 has separate dedicated pins for address and data, which is why it's like the size of a Hershey bar. Things are enormous. Whereas on the 8086, the same physical wires coming out of it, they pull double duties. Part of the time they are address lines, part of the time they are data lines. So let's go ahead and let's check out this reset signal, see if this works. Help if I need to reconfigure this so that it doesn't go into power saving mode quite so readily. All right, so it went high briefly and then went back low. We'll check out the clock. And the clock, is it going to figure out what the, so usually it tells me down here what the frequency is. Okay, there we go. A very nice 8 megahertz looking clock frequency, exactly what we want to see. And I'm just going to pick random pin here, and I'm going to change the zoom on this. So it's doing stuff. All the pins over here are doing stuff. So it kind of looks like it's doing something. And a couple times it's done this where it's popped up a postcode of FF, which I think is essentially random. I don't think the firmware is intentionally programming the postcodes on this. Even though this came out, I'm sure this came out after the AT, which was when those postcodes were introduced. I'm inferring that they just decided not to do it on here. So then I thought, well, don't go super far out of your way trying to debug what you think is a dead motherboard. The reason that I'm thinking that this is dead is typically it would be screaming at me. The speaker would be telling me, you don't have a keyboard plugged in. You don't have like something. The floppy drive won't seek. It would be complaining about something, and it's just silent. So I decided to go ahead and plug in a monitor. And when I plugged in the monitor, I instantly saw it's not. It's not dead. It's just being very quiet. Now, I don't know if the memory address errors I don't know if that's because I was poking at it. I guess I can power cycle it. And all right, so it just comes up memory address error. So there are definitely some problems. So there is some RAM chips on the board here, and this is, I'm assuming, system RAM. I would have expected this to, I'm not sure what sort of RAM configuration. It does look like it's two different kinds of RAM chips because there's 4 and 2. So these must be the actual memory, and these are the parity bits. And up here underneath the post analyzer is some additional RAM. This would be the video memory. So I don't know. So, oh, well, these are easy to read. They are 41464. So this should be 256K. After I was done editing this video, I had uploaded it. I was about ready to click the button to have it go live. I was doing one final watch of the video for any sort of editing errors or anything, and I realized I failed basic math. The RAM chips that are on the motherboard are 4-bit 64K memory chips. So 4 of those is 128K. The RAM is showing up correct. This tells me that the parity error that I was getting when the sims were installed must be coming from bad sims. All of those memory errors must be coming from bad sims. Now there is another error later on in the video that is truly weird. I don't have an explanation for that. On the motherboard here, so even if the sims are bad, the motherboard RAM should be enough to get it past 128K. I'm going to go ahead and grab a keyboard and hook that up to it. And I guess I can go ahead and try to hook up the floppy drive to it and see if that gets rid of some of the error codes. I am not expecting that floppy drive to work, but stranger things have happened. All right, the floppy drive did something there. And I see a light on the keyboard. Still has the same memory address error. Press F1. Oh. And it wants... Okay. Well, so it's done. All right, so it booted into basic. That's something. That says a lot works that it got that far. I will create a floppy for this because it wants. I'm sure that it wants its diagnostic floppy. They didn't put the BIOS setup in the ROMs. You have to have a floppy for it. And then I think I have a very, very little bit of. Oh no, it's actually I have none. Crap, I have no deoxit. I will just use some alcohol and a gentle toothbrush inside the sockets. I really wanted to avoid taking these sims out of these sockets if at all possible, because these are the really cheap plastic ones that have a tendency to want to break if you look at them wrong. So, well, we'll see how that goes. I removed the RAM. I cleaned the sockets. I think I want to try testing it without the RAM in the sockets because this is 256K of RAM. And each of these memory sticks should also be 256K. But because it's only detecting 128K, I don't think it has anything to do with the sockets or the RAM. But I want to test it without them. I'm still, I don't know. I don't know what the issue would be with that. I did create a setup disk. There's also a diagnostic disk, which I will almost certainly end up creating one of those here pretty quickly. I took a quick spin with the cleaning disk in there. The drive was a little bit sticky. I had to give the motor a little bit of an encouragement before it would actually spin up. But it did go ahead and spin the cleaning disk. So maybe against all odds, the floppy drive actually will work. Let's go ahead and find out. So it will likely come on and complain. The driver did something. It's going to complain about all the things. F1 to resume again. It's not complaining about the floppy drive now or the keyboard, which I guess it wasn't before. It still says 128, but it's not complaining about 128K. Presumably, oh, that doesn't sound good. Oh, and that doesn't look good. Is that bogus because of the floppy drive? Or is that just bogus because it got around to accessing that part of RAM and something failed? Oh boy. If these surface mount RAM chips are bad, that is going to be tough. I don't know what I'll do with that. I mean, I'm sure I have some RAM around that has these kinds of chips on them, because these are 4x64K and these are 1x64K. So these chips should be the same as what's on the Sims. No, these would be 1x256. No, I probably won't have any 1x64Ks. It's another day and another t-shirt. After I stopped recording last night, I decided to go ahead and take everything off this board and actually give it a wash. There's a couple spots I can see that I missed, but holy smokes, it is so much cleaner than it was. It doesn't look like it's been sitting in a barn for 20 years. Now, when I took everything off this board, I did notice that this ROM socket has seen some things. It's seen some stuff, man. All I can figure is that at some point someone was trying to, pry out the ROM with a screwdriver and got underneath the socket and pried out some of the socket too. It looks fine, and I suspect that if it wasn't fine, we wouldn't even have gotten the level of activity out of the system that we were getting. So I don't think this has anything to do with anything. I also completely took apart the floppy drive, and when I disassembled it, I was going to wash it also. I checked very carefully around all these capacitors. There's 4 capacitors on this board, and everything looked fine. I don't see any signs of capacitor leakage. I checked very carefully. There's 3 surface mount capacitors on this side, and around this one, it kind of looked like this chip next to this capacitor here had some damage, but I looked at it really closely using the magnifiers, and I think it's just there's these white pathways on this PCB, and so I think that the white pathways kind of made it look like there was some corrosion around the legs of this chip. I think that this is fine. I don't really like to do, every time you do something to a system, and note I've done a lot of things here, there is some risk that you're gonna break it, and so I don't really like to do recappings unless I have pretty good confidence that it needs it. So I'm not intending to recap this floppy drive. I think it's fine. Now, the one thing that I did notice when I got it apart is there's this little pad that's supposed to be right here on the head, and it was just like floating around in here. So that may have caused some problems. I'm not sure. I haven't tried it yet. My intention right now is I'm going to put all of this stuff back together as it was last night and see if it just magically has been fixed by having, a nice day at the spa. I have zero expectation that I will observe any different behavior. In fact, observing exactly the same behavior is kind of my best case scenario, because that means that I didn't cause any more damage. So I'm going to put all this back together. I'm going to try it out again, and upon observing whatever behavior we see, I'll talk about next steps. Okay, it's not exactly fully reassembled, and I kind of have the drive precariously on this because of where the drive wheel is, because I left the metal plate that goes under there is still upstairs, and I was too lazy to run and get it, especially since I may have to do additional servicing on this. The diagnostic disk, I believe that is the last disk I created, is in the drive. ROM's installed, CPUs are installed. I checked carefully. I took pictures of it last night before removing anything. Checked carefully that everything is in, all 4 chips are in the correct sockets and that they are oriented the correct way. Okay, enough chin wagging. Let's go ahead and flip the switch here. And we'll see if anything happens. If anything good happens. All right, so this seems same as last night. So that's something. I didn't make things dramatically worse. That is interesting. Let me try something here. Oh no, it is. Okay. So control. Well, that's different. It just kind of hung up and didn't give the parity error. All right, let's try this. Oh, well, that's new. Okay, I wonder if just this board. Let's try this one more time, because I think this board was kind of touching the read head assembly. Ooh, okay. Let's see if I can. How precarious can you make a thing? Okay, so now it just went into basic. Because it really tried. Boot disk failure. Okay, well, I think the problems that we are experiencing now are with the drive just not quite being able to do its thing. I'm gonna disassemble this and poke at the drive a little bit more, because it really tried there, and we're not seeing the parity error message, which is, I wonder if there was just filth on here that was bridging a couple of the lines, and so occasionally it would actually generate a parity error on the RAM, although it still only shows up as 128K, and it is definitely 256K. So, all right, more things to try. Hold, please. It was really hard to show, but what I have done is I've tried to lubricate the rails that the head assembly slides on. I'm not taking this apart any further. Every time I do it, my patience just gets thinner and thinner. And I have manually turned the worm gear here to move the head assembly into the middle as far as it can go, in the hopes that it seems like when it's starting up that it's spinning, but it's not seeking at all. And it seems like it should be seeking. And as time has gone on, there's less movement. So I think I'm going to try to hold this very precariously, because I have to like not let anything touch anything, and I need 17 hands, and it's all very frustrating. I don't know if you can tell. I'm going to turn it on without a disk in. We should see the head seek smoothly. I have lubricated those drive rails, and so hopefully a little bit of lubrication will help things. And hopefully this will solve the problem of it. It seems like it's not seeking, but I'm not sure if that is because it is physically incapable of seeking, if it's because the motor isn't trying to seek it, if it's not getting commands to seek. There are a number of potential points of failure, and I'm not sure which one it is, but I do know that I have to hold this up and keep all the things off all the things because I don't want things to short out. It's really hard to get this insulating layer in. I need to have it so that the drive wheel on the bottom isn't touching anything. I need like 4 more hands. So I'm going to try turning this on and see if it will seek when it powers up. Okay, so it did, but boy howdy, that sounded like a rough seek. And now it says, why is there nothing? Oh, my camera stopped. After I recorded the first segment, I'm just going to say it, everything just went to crap. I hooked everything up, I turned it on, and it kind of was reading the disk. I have not been getting the parity errors at all anymore. It still only detects as 128K for reasons I will never understand. OBS captured 1 frame from this camera and then just was like, no, you get no more frames. And because I'm not staring at that screen, I didn't know. So I had like 25 minutes recorded of where that screen is just black. This floppy drive was having some issues. What I ended up doing that I think resolved the issues, it wasn't seeking. So I manually worked the worm gear, and I'm not going to be able to juggle things around so that can be visible like this. Worked the worm gear to sort of manually seek the drive head all the way in and lubricated. There's a couple of rails that the drive head assembly is on. I put a little bit of sewing machine oil on those. If there is a better lubricant for these things, I would like to hear about it in the comments. This was just a thing that was recommended to me by some random Joe. Then when it turned it on and it seeked all the way in, that first seek back was it was not smooth. It was not smooth at all. But now I put a disk in and rebooted it, and it read the disk. It has booted up. I guess I'm pointing at. It has booted up into the diagnostics. So now, oh boy, I can finally run the diagnostics. It's probably been 40 minutes since I recorded that very first segment. So let's run these diagnostics and see if it says anything about the system. This is the first time I've successfully booted into this. So I've got a whole mix of emotions going on here. But the drive seems to be working okay. There is a real high-pitched squeaking sound. And I have lubricated that under wheel. There must be something else. Okay, so well, now that's interesting. So this detects 266 KB of memory, which I'm assuming it's using decimal kilobytes instead of, it's using 1,000 as a kilobyte instead of 1024. Disk drive, coprocessor, yes, that is all correct. That is interesting. I wonder if if it's only detecting 128K because it hasn't been configured. That came back. Oh, I'll press enter to test all options. Testing. Oh. Error, system board 161. Okay, but that's set date and time. Testing memory. This may take up to a minute. This is so, it appears to have passed the memory test. This is a really weird question. I've never had anything ask me what shape my enter key is. I guess it's trying to figure out which keyboard it has? Oh. Okay, so I know my keyboard is good. If okay, Y enter. Okay, keyboard 300. Okay, run all above tests. Uh-oh. I tried a video mode that this monitor does not like. I will say yes. Oh, exit to main menu. I didn't even see that. It's odd that exit, you have run all the above tests, and one of the above tests is exit. That's... I decided to cut myself off there. There was a lot of material, and especially while I was editing, I noticed like it was just a lot. After that point where I cut myself off, I kept messing about with the setup disk. I tried to format a floppy disk on using the format program that's on the setup disk, and then I tried to use that floppy in a different computer, and the other computer was not able to read it. So it seems that the floppy drive can read disks just fine, like it seems fine, but it's not able to write disks, which is a little bit confusing to me. I continue to have the same sort of memory errors, and I'm kind of stumped. Like, the floppy drive, I'm sure it just needs to be serviced a little bit harder. The memory issues, I'm a bit more uncertain about. I don't know what to do. I suspect that the problem is either a bad RAM chip in the RAM that is mounted on the motherboard, or is a bad trace somewhere. That seems like the most likely candidates. I am going to return back to this very soon. I really want to get this computer working. I've got a couple other things that are demanding my attention a little bit sooner, but this will be the next thing on my table after I get those other issues taken care of. If you are interested in seeing me follow up with this board that has proven to be very difficult, I would highly recommend that you subscribe to the channel. If you liked this video and felt my pain, I would really appreciate a like. And, you know, if you have any suggestions about what I might be able to do to try to narrow down the point of failure on this, I would really love to hear about it in the comments. But until next time, try to remember the good stuff.